Hey, what's up? Welcome to Film Fault Lines. This is the show that sees how things are shaken up in Hollywood. I'm Seth.
And I'm Devin.
And today we're going to talk about
Mission Impossible Fallout.
I am excited for this one. So, directed by Chris McQuarrie and with a budget of $178 million, this starts at a confident 3.
Yeah. Now that we know what we're talking about.
Right.
Yeah. So, okay. I want to try something new. If you had to describe this movie in just 2 words, what would they be?
Tom, no!
Perfect.
Yeah. That's, with all the stunts in this, and how many of them are like most definitely Tom Cruise.
Oh yeah,
he's gonna die making these movies.
He's trying.
Almost guaranteed. So let's start off with the first section.
Yeah.
Story. The thing that I really wanted to bring up as like I think the strongest point of this film is its theme. As we were writing out the script for this or the notes, the running theme in this film is Ethan Hunt saves individual people, not the world.
Yeah.
Like if he took on the weight of the world, he wouldn't complete these missions. He completes them because he's trying to save specific individual people. And so that's how the film starts, with him actually failing a mission by saving someone.
Yeah.
And that theme pops up so many times in this movie. There's a scene where he imagines what he's going to have to do to complete a specific mission, and it ends with him potentially having to kill a cop. And then in reality, a different situation pops up where he may have to kill a cop. And then at the end of the film, it really comes down to this specific person that he wants to save and not really the world. And that theme popping up so often, I think, is really what keeps this movie grounded. Like, the save the world line, I don't know if it was in there maybe more than once. And if it was brought up, it was brought up in the passing tense of like, we're doing this to save the world, but like the team isn't.
Right. And I like that they were smart enough to look back at the old movies and recognize that as a common theme for Ethan's character already. It wasn't just like Cat's trying to get in. It wasn't just like pulled out of nowhere. Like if you look at the old movies, there's always somebody he's fighting for, somebody he's trying to protect, which gave it just more power. Yeah, and that's kind of a common thing throughout the story here. Is there's actually a bunch of character development for Ethan as a whole, for different for other characters as well, and it's all built on history that's already established, but giving us a more fleshed out version of that history. So that's really cool. I like that.
And with that character development, I don't know if this is really a spoiler because she's kind of in the previews. Julia is back for Mission Impossible 3, his wife. That they kind of explain what happened to her, why she just kind of disappeared in Ghost Protocol. I think they brought that up in Ghost Protocol, that he kind of put her into hiding or whatever. Yeah. I think they wanted to finish that story out more. So she pops up at the end of the film, and it takes your third act, which is supposed to be like the biggest part of the movie, and makes it super personal.
Yeah.
And that kind of emotional crux again is part of the theme. It wasn't just like adding her in to add her in.
Right.
She's kind of cropped up throughout the film series so far, and then she was brought in on purpose through the villain's plan in a way that like it totally flips the third act on its head, where all of a sudden it's like, oh, we got to go save the world, to oh, we got to save this one person, and it just reiterates that theme that I brought up, and that's how you interweave character development, theme, and plot.
And there's like a line from Luther that really solidifies that right there at the end. When Simon Pegg's character, oh my gosh, Benji, thank you. Benji wants Julia to leave, and then Luther's response to that is just like,
where's she gonna go? Yeah,
it's just like perfectly solidifies like how necessary it is for them to do what they're doing. Right. And it makes it all personal. But she used to build Ethan out even more, and to also develop weirdly to develop the romantic relationship between Ethan, like the semi-romantic relationship between Ethan and the MI6 agent.
Oh yeah.
Which is
Ilsa.
like, that's like a weird move, but it worked. It worked.
Yeah, like, it was okay. It kind of made the whole like awkward love triangle not awkward anymore.
Right.
In a very satisfying way. Like I feel good about the way they ended her story. That's like, these movies are kind of, you're here for the action, for the stunts, and for a spy thriller story. You're gonna get that. Like, there's no point in really bringing up the entirety of the plot. Because a lot of it is spoilers and the twists and turns that it wants to take you on. I think the only thing that I wanted to bring up, which is more of a metatextual twist, was in the pacing of this. So if you've seen a spy movie, but more specifically, if you've seen the Mission Impossible movies, you know that they complete a hefty mission and then it hard cuts into the mission debrief. That's just the way that these movies work. Mission debrief, mission prep, mission debrief. Like, that's kind of the way these films go. And this one, they kind of complete I think it's the second mission of the movie, and it just kind of holds on them driving this boat around the canals of France. And I was like, wow, I would have cut like a long time ago, because we're just going to go to a mission debrief, right? Nope. That was the movie going, I know you think where we're going. I know where you would imagine we'd be going, but instead I'm giving you a little bit of a breather because here comes another car chase. And it's like even higher stakes, even better cinematography. They just they give you a chance to breathe and then just ramp it the whole way up again.
It's just like back into it.
And that's amazing pacing. Because it throws out normal pacing in lieu of something even better. And it threw me. Like, I was sitting in the theater going, oh, wow, okay.
Yeah.
All right, movie.
Yeah. No, it's really smart. And I like that. I mean, this is a 2.5-hour movie.
Yeah.
It's not a long movie by any standards. I did not feel like it was 2.5 hours.
Right.
And that shows really good pacing. When you're going to have a long movie, it's so easy for it to have these really slow points and just feel weird. But
these action sequences are long, but they don't overstay their welcome.
Right.
You want to see what's going to happen next, and they change tone throughout as well. Like, I think about the on foot chase that happened just before the third act. Like, it goes from being intense to funny to emotional. The way that it ends is not normal. Like in any other spy movie, the conversation would happen like between a door or glass or on a radio that somebody left behind, and instead the movie opposite would be like, no, Tom Cruise is going to be hanging from the bottom of an elevator while his wife is threatened.
Yeah.
Like
super uncomfortably. Like, you can tell he's struggling there.
Right. Because he just ran like a mile plus as fast as he possibly could.
Yeah, across rooftops. So.
Just every this movie in its entirety is subtle. It's really brought kind of subtlety to the series in a way that like the Fast and Furious movies refuse to.
Right.
And I like that in its subtlety, it'll go, yeah, we know this is how a normal spy movie would do it, but like, what if we did it a little changed?
It made it powerful for that too.
Yeah.
Like, it's got an emotional impact that I don't think the other Mission Impossibles have had.
Yeah.
Like, they have all had emotional moments, but this one overall had this solid impact throughout that just really solidified it as serious. It's like, okay, we know we're like fun, but also this is serious.
Right.
Like, and that it's kind of reminiscent of like, I feel like early 70s spy movies in that way of like, there's fun action, but also a serious plot line. And we like from a time period when spies were, I guess, more threatening to people. You know?
Yeah. Cold War era, that kind of stuff. You brought up that this feels like the most Mission Impossible movie of the series.
Yeah.
I think this also feels like the most James Bond of the series.
Yeah. I would definitely making that similar correlation.
Like, they're really getting to the heart of like what it would be like to be a spy.
Yeah, and like really, it's like paring down everything that's made this series run into its essence, and then giving you that, and then building in like that just really solid story and everything around that. Right. So, because it's not like there were some big stunts in this, but I don't feel like it was about those big stunts.
Right, and where the others really made it about the stunts, they were the tentpoles. For this one, it's weirdly the opposite. Like I think this. It's weird that this movie's had this much of an impact. I saw it just last night. You saw it a couple nights ago.
Yeah.
But to walk out of it going like, man, like I feel really emotionally connected to these characters. Like I always have. There's points throughout the film where you think, Benji or Luther or somebody's gonna die, and I guess it's spoilers to say they don't. But this is the first time that I was like genuinely worried.
Yeah.
Just because it's so late in the series, and that's usually the move people take.
Right.
Is like take out big characters.
This one gave that like they might not actually manage to do this impression more than any other movie. There were moments where I was like, are they not going to save the world? Are they not going to figure out who this guy is? Like,
well, and I think they set that up at the very beginning. There's this scene. Oh man, this is too spoiler. There's a scene that sets up the idea very well that like visually imprints in your mind this may not work.
Yeah.
That we've talked too long about this, but it's kind of the strongest. The strongest part of the film. Because it's so strong, a Richter.
Yeah, it gets a solid Richter here. And that moves us into filming style, right? Filming style. And before we jump into this, I have a quick thing. This is just weird, but like the first thing I noticed when this movie opened was the suit that Cruz is wearing. It's like one of the sharpest suits I've ever seen. Yeah. And just, I don't know. I opened, I was like, oh, that's a nice suit. That's a nice suit. And then I could pay attention to the movie.
Very muted Irish colors. Yeah. And he was in Belfast for that part too, so it kind of made sense. I mean, like wardrobing in a spy movie, it's leather jackets and
everything else throughout this is exactly what you expect.
Right.
And
although Benji had one scene where he was wearing like a bow tie and suspenders, but it looked like functional. And I like that kind of visually he stood out as the tech guy.
Yeah.
In a way that
it was very
like,
Benji.
Yeah. It was great for his character, but like he would have totally blended in.
Right.
Anywhere. Like you wouldn't have been like, oh, bow tie suspenders. It was just kind of like, oh hipster.
Yeah, exactly. Major points we wanted to talk about here. Cinematography. I think overall, cinematography here is weird. We've been like bouncing back and forth on it because
it's hard to talk about subdued, subtle cinematography.
Yeah.
And the places that subdued and subtle cinematography pops out, that's a tongue twister, is in action scenes, because the action scenes in this felt like the Bourne series, specifically I'm thinking of the car chases and the motorcycle chases. Yep. They felt like the Bourne series, but they were not shot like the Bourne series.
No, Bourne series is like where Shakey Cam really came into its own, and this literally is like, okay, we're done with Shakey Cam.
Yeah,
it's over. That was actually, I think, a big thing about it that I really like, because action movies, even new action movies, have been doing Shakey Cam for so long. It's just like, oh yeah, you're just getting this.
Right.
And it didn't exist.
Yeah.
And everything was solid. You could see everything. Like, it was clear. You understood every moment of action. Like, I know what is happening. I can keep up with this insane amount of action because I clearly saw each moment.
Right. And the way that they would cut between Ethan's perspective and then the cop's perspective really gave this cat and mouse feel to every chase scene. There's one part where we're right on Cruz. He sees a truck coming. He zips around it, and we cut back to the cops as they're like coming up on this van real hard. In a Jason Bourne movie, they would have just showed you the first person footage of them crashing into that van, but instead it cuts one more time to the wide to show these guys are on nimble motorcycles. They're just going to slow down and kind of zip real quick. But it happens in this boom, boom, boom sequence of like, oh my God, wait, where's Ethan? Like you're kind of just constantly wanting to jump back to him to make sure that he's doing okay, because there's so much happening in big wides where like when you can see everything, it's easy to get overwhelmed, and like now I'm looking and trying to keep up. But anytime you feel a little lost, it's grab your hand and kind of pull you back along.
Yeah, it's like this steady pace of like overview, lots going on. Okay, this is this individual person, this individual person, this individual. Back to overview. Okay, like in the steady rhythm where it's like, okay, I can see what everybody's doing, and now I understand each person's perspective, and now we're in the next scene and I can see like everything, and like it really worked. It made for
anytime they would do Ethan's perspective, everything would be a little bit out of focus and on the edge, because when you're running away, you don't have enough time. You concentrate on where you're going, and then any other information you're going to pick up is all peripheral. So there's a scene where he pulls up to kind of roundabout and spins around in a circle, and like you see out of focus in the distance the cop car is pulling up because he's just trying to continue this move to figure out which way he's going to go next.
Overall, and that's the thing. Like, I think part of the reason we've struggled is it's subdued, but there are really good moments. Like,
for sure,
just moments where it's like, oh, that shot's so good, and like the longer we've talked about it, the more of those shots we've pulled out. So I think there's even more than we're thinking about. Like, I think a second viewing of this will probably end up revealing a bunch more shots that are really solid. But this was a masterpiece in cinematography, honestly.
Especially for like for not going way too over the top, because there's one I think of in particular about halfway through the film that's in a semi-dream sequence, which a Mission Impossible movie with a dream sequence. There's a couple of them actually. It opens on a dream sequence. Now that I think about it,
again, that like
letting us into Ethan's head.
Yeah, we got to see in Ethan's head. Yeah,
which has not really happened before. Yeah, and that's exciting. So there's one more point we want to bring up, but we're going to give it a Richter because it kind of also ties into the next section.
Yeah.
Super great Richter on this one for me. Just so many shots involve you and play with you and let you have fun. Just this is a movie that knew exactly how it wanted to show you what was happening.
Yeah. No, like it was never distracting. Mm-hmm. It always gave you the information, and when you walked out of the movie, there was no confusing points. Like, even like the most brutal fight scene in the whole thing, it was so clear what was happening.
Right.
And that
exactly.
was great. Yeah. But
full
Richter.
Said that. So the last thing we wanted to bring up in this section.
Yes. So there is a scene we're going to describe in a minute that earns points both for the cinematography and the sound design.
Right.
Because this is one of the smartest sound design decisions I've seen in a long time.
Oh, yeah.
So during the long chase, the female agent is on a motorcycle, and in order to catch up, she goes down a row of columns.
Right.
Which, go ahead and talk about the cinematography, then I'll talk.
Yeah, so the way they shoot this scene, they come up on a building, Ethan cuts left, Ilsa decides to cut right in through like a pathway. So it's like the walls here, then there's columns out here, and she is like full throttle, open it up, gunning down here. And the way they decided to shoot this scene was on her back in a moving dolly zoom.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it was. I would imagine they were zooming out and pushing up in on her. That's probably the easier way to do the shot. But it's that Jaws shot. If you don't know what we're talking about, we'll insert it right here real quick.
Yeah.
It's that, but on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And the lighting, like you're getting flashes of light as she's speeding down this thing.
Yeah.
It's all natural.
And then the perfect of the columns passing. Like the thing you actually get when you fly past the series of columns or trees or some, stationary obstacle.
Perfectly timed out to the theater speakers, just like past your ears. Yep. The score's real low. I think it might have just been bongos only at that point, if anything.
Yeah.
But just they make this a moment.
Yeah, and like it felt like she was flying. Like suddenly felt the speed that she felt on that motorcycle.
And if you don't know how most stunts are done in movies, unless it is a really big wide shot where they need a really fast car and they don't need you to see who's driving, your Fast and Furious movies are done at about 25 miles an hour.
Yeah.
25 to 30. There are exceptions, but in general, these kinds of films are done very slow.
Yeah.
And then they're shot in a way that it makes it seem like it's going fast. You can't see the ground
rapid
a lot of
camera
the time.
Movement
yeah, exactly.
And low angles too, looking up or like
this. There's no way she wasn't going at least 50 plus.
Yeah.
Which doesn't sound like a lot because you drive that all the time. But if you're driving 50 plus down a teeny tiny little corridor, with stuff flying past you, 50 feels like 100. Might as well have been 100.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And it's just excellent stunt coordination, filmmaking, lighting, sound design, just one perfect moment in this film.
Yeah.
If you think we're gushing, I promise you we're not.
No.
To be able to pull something like that off, that's days of shooting.
Yeah, and it's just for this like quick moment in the middle of this fight. I like too how like the rest of the fight scene is like very snappy, and then we just get this moment of like, okay, we're gonna give you the speed. We're gonna let you feel what like
how
what's
fast
actually
It just, so that's part of, I guess, not only cinematography but also post.
Yeah.
Because that sound design is amazing.
And I mean, there's definitely smart sound design everywhere in this film. Like one of the biggest scenes, like there's examples all over the place, but I guess the second best example is the bathroom fight scene.
Yeah.
Like there's just brutal sound design, and
perfect. Yeah.
They did such a good job that this is one of the areas they drop out the score. And sorry, I'm doing it again. This is why I try to my foot fell asleep. Oh, this is why I try to sit like this. But yeah, they drop out the score.
And that kind of brings me into the only real downer, I think, for this movie, for me, again, because I am the music guy, the score, the Mission Impossible theme is iconic as far as music goes. It is, to me, up there with Star Wars, up there with Indiana Jones.
Yeah, like you immediately recognize it. You can just go bump, 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 and everybody's going to know exactly what you're doing.
And another like super nerdy thing about it is most music is written in 4/4, easy to count. The Mission Impossible theme is written in 5/4 because that extra beat adds suspense.
Oh yeah,
that's like just within the world of a spy movie. The fact that they have one of the more suspenseful time signatures in their theme, because if you count it, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, dun 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 dun. Dun. So and it's that hang that happens in the middle, dun dun. Like that, it just builds suspense. So they've got the palette to work with, and in their defense, they use bongos, which are quiet, subdued instruments that have to be played fast anytime that there's dialogue or they just need to keep the pace moving. That's super smart. The theme stays in 5/4 throughout, even when they expand on into like the big, orchestral version of the song. Yeah. The downside is I think they didn't punctuate scenes with the score enough. So there's one, the one that actually pulled me out of it to make me think of it was they do the halo drop towards the beginning of the movie. And it's this huge suspenseful scene where they jump at 25,000 feet and they deploy parachutes at 2,000 feet. And like I've gone skydiving before. The timing of the scene works out perfectly. The suspense of like the little machine in his head telling him what altitude he's at. Like everything is executed really, really, really well until the landing where the score should have amounted to something and instead just kind of like fizzles. And it was a huge letdown for me of this, like they made full trailers for this Halo drop specifically about this one stunt. Tom Cruise is the first actor to ever do, because he did a Halo jump. Yeah. Like that, I mean, that's amazing. The score should have reflected that. And instead the score was kind of like, yeah. And it just kind of threw me out. So there were beats and I think the other part that frustrates me a lot about this, not to go on for too long, but the best parts of the movies, or the best part of this movie is anytime the score drops out to allow for the sound design. The motorcycle chase, the fight scene in the bathroom, there's no score. It's just, it's all visceral punching. It's a little frustrating for them to have that palette to work from and not execute on it. Yeah. The only downer in the movie, I promise, it's the only thing that'll disappoint you. But if you're a music nerd, if you really enjoy movie scores, this is not going to be the take home the cake.
It doesn't live up to its predecessors.
Especially with how many great scores that we've heard this year. Solo had so many great parts. Yeah. Just, a little more inventiveness is all I needed. Just a little extra, a little sauce.
But then, like, another good aspect of post was the editing and transitions.
Oh, yeah.
There were, like, some really good edits, some really good transitions. Like, and this was like not one. Like some directors find like one transition they really like,
yeah,
and then they do a bunch of those. But this had match transitions. This had oh man, what's action match transitions, which is like slightly different. That's more of like letting us transition between scenes because something happening in one scene directly affects the other.
Right. Yeah, storytelling through action.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is all about the editing, in case you didn't know.
Yeah. So like a lot of good transitions and smart editing choices here. Nothing that's like really stands out.
Right.
As
Again,
over the top, but
it's bare bones basics, but executed perfectly.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, there's one that really stood out to me. So there's a scene towards the end where any other movie would just probably hard cut or travel shot or establishing shot, something like that. Instead, they're talking about where they need to go next, the country of Kashmir, and it's on the map. And as they're talking, the camera moves in on the map and onto Kashmir on the word on the map, and then the transition starts to fade into the next scene. So now what you are left with is just the word Kashmir across the establishing shot of the next scene, and it's just a perfect fade between.
Yeah.
Setting up something that we're used to. Like if you watch Captain America Civil War, they put big bold letters to let you know where you are. It's that, but without the hard cut.
Yeah.
It was smooth, and like that. There was a lot of moments in this movie, just because I know how much filmmaking is involved with Mission Impossible. There was a lot of moments like that for me that I was like, oh, that was slick.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, just like the movie as a whole was like they dialed back on everything to like this perfect place where it sits, and then they just told a really good story.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, for post, because of the disappointment in the sound design, I think we're only giving this one half a rating.
But disappointment in the score. The sound design.
Sorry, score, not sound design.
Honestly, if the score had been fine and the sound design had been fine, we probably wouldn't have given this section much, because a lot of this happens in camera, and that's kind of the point of why Tom Cruise is still the lead of these movies. But really great sound design, not so great score.
Yeah,
we're giving this one a half.
Yep,
half Richter.
A half Richter. So,
and that's fine because it's still going to come out pretty solid by the end.
Yeah. So then the next section is cast and crew, and I think this is one of those sections where everybody did fine.
Yeah, I think the notable performance in this, and most Mission Impossible movies don't really have. I think 3 was Tom Cruise's best overall performance. This has a monologue with Luther, which is a weird character to give like a heartfelt monologue to, you would think, but it works perfectly in this movie, and that's kind of like the standout to me.
Yeah. And I think the only like outside cast, the only crew we want to bring up is the stunt coordinator.
Yeah. Shout out to you.
Yeah.
You already got your Richters at the beginning of this, but
yeah, like the fight scenes in this were so good, and the variety in the fight scenes, like based on who was fighting who and everything.
Everyone has their own unique style that works perfectly for them.
Yeah.
Tom Cruise is showing his age and no longer doing the John Woo stuff from the second one. Like he really has toned it back. He gets tired out.
Yep.
At one point, and like, you know, it really, really great cast. But they've been around before.
Yeah.
And all the newbies. I like the White Widow. She was a cool character. She kind of reminded me a lot of the lady from the first Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
The one that kind of brokered a deal for him. And I think they're trying to set her up to be that way, because the movie ends with her not knowing that he's Ethan Hunt. So I guess for future films, they might want to bring her back.
Yeah.
She was a lot of fun. Henry Cavill playing a stinker was I mean, he gets his moments to look like a good guy, but you know, throughout you just kind of realize that
he's a shady characher.
Yeah, he's shady. He's projecting a lot.
Yeah.
Which kind of throws another beat of the story off. But I don't think we gave anything for.
We gave half.
Half. This is for you, Wolfgang. What was his name? Stedman? Wolfgang Stedman. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Yeah. That half Richter is yours, buddy. Those fight scenes were amazing.
Yes. Okay. Wow factor. And we have talked about it, 2 or 3 times already.
Yes.
But this is getting a full Richter in wow factor for that bathroom fight scene.
Worth the price of admission.
Yes.
Not only for how cool it looks, for what's happening in it. This isn't just a bathroom fight scene. There's a lot of balls being juggled here, and a lot of comedy throughout it as well.
Yep.
Very Jackie Chan reminiscent almost.
And the fact that we get to see somebody who's just like head and shoulders better than not just Ethan Hunt, but Ethan Hunt and
August Walker.
Yeah, August Walker, Cavill's character, both. Well, a CIA agent and an IMF agent, both highly trained, and this guy just hands it to them,
mops the floor.
Yeah, and like that's such a bold choice for a movie like this. But man, that scene is brutal
and perfectly sets up a character introduction. Like it feels like it's dumb to say go watch this for a fight scene, but the fight scene in the context of where it's happening, what's happening in it, what it's setting up, the power dynamic that it's giving you between Ethan and August for the end of the movie, like there's a lot more happening here that makes it worth a full Richter.
Yeah, and the way it changes like the whole course of the movie through that fight scene.
Yeah.
No,
like it literally offsets the plot into a different area.
Yep. It's like we were going in one direction. Nope. Now we're gonna have to go this whole different direction.
Right.
Because of this scene.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. No. Definitely. Okay, so that brings us to personal suggestion, and we currently sit at 7 Richters.
Right. I think initially we gave this a half. Now that I'm thinking about it, now that we're getting into it, I think anybody could enjoy this movie.
I really do. Like I've been thinking, especially because despite having like a brutal fight scene and despite everything else, it's still like a family-friendly ride.
Yes.
You know, of a movie. Like that's something Mission Impossible has always been good at.
Yeah.
Is like walking that line between like, you know, if you're an adult, you're gonna go watch this and love it, but kids can go watch it too.
Right.
Which I think they're PG-13, but they're like. This one's like a very soft PG-13, except for that bathroom scene.
Well, the bathroom scene, and like they do use their Hail Mary F word that every PG-13 movie is allowed by the MPAA. But they use it in a scene between two bad guys, and it really kind of sets up like it's weird. The use of your one F word in a PG-13 movie says a lot about like how you want to execute, and the fact that they used theirs during the scene that sets up who the villains really are makes that scene dirtier. Yeah. And so it was like, it felt well thought out. It felt a little out of place, just again, because it's like, I think they barely cuss at all in these movies. Yeah. But it was just like, it was so like in your face, and then you realize what's happening in the scene. You're like, oh yeah, that just kind of make the scene a little dirtier.
Yeah. So, you know, I don't know anybody who, if they asked me if they should watch this, I'd be like, nah, don't go watch it. Like everybody, I'd be like, yeah, totally. It's fun. It's a great ride. It's definitely worth seeing. So I think we've been there's multiple sections where we were bouncing between like half and full Richter for this. So I think, again,
because it's so subtle, like you want to give it the benefit of the doubt. Like you meant to pull back here, right? And I think the tone of the movie overall feels like yes, so we want to give it the benefit that way.
So we'll make up for those half ones we had to like lose here.
One full absolute Richter. Go see this movie.
Yeah,
takes it to an 8 overall.
Yeah, it's a very solid 8.
Yeah, too. and like I think in general the Mission Impossible movies sit between like 6s and 8s.
Yeah.
So.
Which, for a long-running action series, that's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, like, you look at the Fast movies, there's 8 of them now, and I think maybe 3 of them are, like, really good, and the rest are, like, pretty middling, and there's some bad ones in there, too.
Yeah.
And, like, even the bad Mission Impossible movie, 2, in case you were wondering, is still not bad.
Good. No, it's still a good movie. It's just bad by comparison.
Right. And so different because of John Woo.
Yeah.
So 8 Richters for Mission Impossible Fallout.
Yeah.
I had a great time. I don't know if I'll see this one in theaters again, but I might just...
Because of the way I had to watch this one, I still have a free movie pass viewing of this, so I might go watch this in theaters again.
Yeah, I might use my movie pass on this one again. But definitely worth checking out. And it's weird that we reviewed a Mission Impossible movie without bringing up the big stunts, but like really they kind of speak for themselves and stand on their own.
Yeah.
The cinematography within them is great.
Yeah, I mean, like the stunts were all around really good, and we did get 3 solid ones. But I also like how they're like subverted in every one. Like each one makes us realize Ethan Hunt is getting old.
Oh yeah,
like, the dude's crazy,
older and crazier.
Yeah, he's just flat out crazy. But his body can't keep up with his craziness like it used to.
Right, for sure. Yeah. So if you like this review, please subscribe to the channel. Drop us a like, leave us a comment with your thoughts on the film. I also, on this channel, have a show running called Movies That Shebang, where I recently did one about Mission Impossible, possibly hooking up with the X-Men series.
Yeah.
So make sure you check that out. We're also on Patreon, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter. Most of them are all at Montressor Media.
Yeah, it'll all be in the description.
Everything's down in the description.
Yep.
Thanks for stopping by and listening to what we thought about this movie. I don't know what we're reviewing next, so I guess we'll just see you next time with a surprise.